This is Stephanie with High Tower Stitching. Today's video is an extended log cabin block sewing that goes along with a previous video. We're going to revisit this log cabin block that had 4 partial seams to make sure everybody gets where the partial seams go. And when I looked in my folder, there was one that was just like it, so we'll be ready to go. And I'm going to use black thread so that hopefully that will show up. Now, reminder of why this kind of log cabin is so nice. All of the strips are 2.5 inches wide, and what we needed was a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. Then we needed 2.5 by 4.5 inch strips, and you cut two light and 2 dark. Each one of those has got 2 cut. The same thing's repeated for your 8.5 inch strip. You've got 2 dark that are the same, 2 light, and then a 12.5 inch, 2 of those, 2 that are light and 2 that are dark. And then we're ready to start. So now I'm ready to start to sew, and we're going to do our first partial seam. We're going to take the 2.5 inch square, which is a nice shape size, and then we're going to take one of the dark 4.5 inch length piece. And this is important. Take and put the piece so it'll open that way. We're going to sew on the left right here. I'm just going to make a simple seam, start there, and then go up. And that's where you get your partial seam, because we only went part of the way. And that leaves this open right here, and that'll come in handy later. So now we're going to take and open that up, and we're going to do the first round, which are only the 4.5 inch pieces. So the other one that matches this dark one, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to lay it right on top of it. Such a nice fit, just like that. And because I want to see where my seam is, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to stitch along the top. Okay, so I've stitched across there, across the top. I'm going to flip it up, and I've now made a corner right there. And one of the things that I want to do is, because I'm always going to be looking for it, is I'm going to take something like a pen right now. I had a little piece of paper in it, and I'm going to mark this corner because that's always going to be the starting side. So now I've got that piece on. I'm going to go back to the same pieces. I'm going to work with the lights. And just like the dark one fit across the top, now I'm going to take the light part of that set and put it in place right across those 2 pieces. I'm going counterclockwise. Alright, and as soon as I get that, I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to get ready to stitch it. Okay, now I've stitched down that side, going to the left. When I open it up, there again, you can see I'm almost finished with a round. And at any time, I could take and stop and press it. And you can press it to one side if you want to, or you can press it open. And I'll just do a finger press on this for right now, so we can keep moving. All right, and now you know you've only got one piece left, and you've got one place for it to go. So I'm going to pick up the last light for round 1, and I'm going to turn this so that I can line it up with it. And when I turn it over, I'm going to sew it on that side when I turn it over. Okay, so now we've gone around the first round, but you can see we have an opening right here. And that's where the partial seam comes in really nice, because I'm going to flip this back over, and you can see where that partial seam came to right here. I've got my pen in the way. Okay, and when I get ready, I'm going to take and I'm going to sew this. And it's really better if you can get it where you can sew it. If you were hand stitching, you'd start right here and go to the left. And on this little piece, it's harder, so I'm going to do it on my sewing machine. Feels kind of awkward today for some reason, and I'm going to stitch up to that dot that I had, which is way up here. Alright, and if everything's gone well, we will have finished our first round of this box. I think what I would have done this time is I should have made that partial seam go down farther. Then it would have been a lot easier to get that to go together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up round 2. I'm going to pick up the dark color. I'm going to lay it up just like I did before on the other. And I'm going to make a partial seam at this, where this one was. Well, we're going to go straight up there. I'm going to make a partial seam, but I'm going to make this one come down a little bit longer. So I'm just going to go and do it from this side. And press open that seam in there. And we'll stop there. Now we're going to keep working counterclockwise again. So there's your partial seam that'll come in handy at the end to square it up. I'm going to take the next piece and I'm going to add it to the top. Okay, and now we've taken and added the second color of the dark onto the top, that 8.5 inch piece, and then I finger pressed the back because I was going to leave it open, and we're ready to go to the light part of round 2 that we're doing. And our open seam was at the very beginning, so it's not a problem right now. So now I'm going to take the next light to build this light side of the squares, and I'm going to take and I'm going to fold it over so I can see my seams, which I want to have open, but you may want to lay them to a side. And we'll start and quickly stitch down through there. And when we open it up, now we've got another light on the side. All right, and that means we are ready for the next light, which would go down at the bottom. And I'm going to lay him on there to match up. One of my pieces were cut just a little bit off, and I had to straighten them up. I'm going to lay him down under there. I'm going to come over here to the edge, starting with that seam. And so break straight across. Okay, now we're ready for the last round. I took a break and went and ironed the back. You can see it's laying much better than it was a minute ago where I had just finger pressed it. That makes me feel good, so I'm ready to start. But I have to go back, and before I can start that round, look at that. What is that? That's the rest of that partial seam. And so I can just lay it back, and this time, see, you have a lot of space. I'm going to start at the top. That's the best place to start, is where we stopped before. And we're going to go all the way down. And that partial seam is now closed up, and so is round 2 all the way around. So we're ready for round 3. We're going to start with the first partial seam. I'm going to start with the dark part. I'm going to lay the dark on there. And I'm going to stitch down. I think I can stitch a good ways down on there. So start. Stop. Open it up. There's my partial seam. Do a little finger press back here to get the top to lay open anyway right now. And we have one more dark piece left. I'm going to pick it up, lay it up here over the edge. This one's just a little bit long, not cut quite right, but it doesn't matter. It's worse when it's cut too short. Turn it over, come back to the machine. Hope the machine will forgive me for putting my foot in it. Here we go. All the way across. And there we go again. There's the second dark one. Now we've only got 2 pieces left, our 2 lights. And what I can do is I've got a little tail hanging out there, but it doesn't matter because when I lay this on there, I'm going to straighten this all up. And I think from this side, I'm just going to come over here with this black thread. And you can do it from this side or you can do it from the other side. And this is the extended version of making this great log cabin block. And I loved doing this because it was so much fun. And I intend to do something with this pattern again. Now there's my last light going right across the bottom. That's out of the way. I'll turn it over. Open that up. Was the bottom. Now we want to finish that round, so we're going to come back over here to the very first piece that we put on. It's got the partial seam. We're going to lay it on there. See how much easier it is when they're long. Line that up. And we'll start back here where I stopped. Then I'm ready to go. And there we have it. And that completes with a light pressing, not ironing, but pressing completes another block that goes with that series for the partial seam. And this is the project that I finished using 4 of those log cabin blocks because they were very big. And remember that these are long strips, and it really is helpful to cut the material with the grain of the fabric so it doesn't stretch. And also to press, not iron, so you stretch your materials. And if you have a number of these blocks, play with the way that you want to set them up. This is not the only way that they can be set up. That's the other nice thing about the log cabin block. And then I would remind people that love to hand stitch, this is a great one because there are some great runs that you can do and have it looking really good. This is Stephanie at High Tower Stitching. Thank you for watching. Any notes I have will be added in the description. And if this was helpful, hopefully this helped you to get those partial seams, then please subscribe and hit like. Thank you.